Good morning, scrapping friends. I'm Deborah Kozlovic and I'm a Creative Memories Independent Advisor from Australia. Welcome to my YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed as yet, please subscribe to my channel and I'll show you my kind of scrapbooking. Today I wanted to share with you the Dollop Arch Frame Punch. And why is it called a frame punch is because you can actually cut out a frame around your 12 by 12 sheet of paper or cardstock, and also going down in different other sizes and making frames. So I'm going to show you how to do that today, and you also can use this Dollop Arch Frame Punch as a border. To start off with, I'm going to show you how to do a simple border using the Dollop Arch Punch. So to do my border, you have these black lines sitting at the front of your punch. So I'm going to line up the corner piece of my paper at the black line to do my first punch, and then as I go through, I'm going to line it up to match up with the blue Dollop Arch sitting on the template right here. So we'll start off with that, just doing a simple border, and you can do these simple borders with all our frame punches. So there's my first punch. So as I'm going along, I'm just marking that next notch, just covering all the blue shaded on the silver, and then punch. So I'm just going to go on to the next one. So I'm going to continue this until I get to the end of the paper. So when you're lining up, making sure that it's all covered, this end of the piece of paper is right up against the back, and holding that in place, and then punch. So lining it up again, making sure that everything is in place, and punch. So onto my last one now, and the end of your piece of paper should be lining up with that black line because it's your last punch. Now just get a coloured piece of cardstock so you can actually see that Dollop Arch. So that's the Dollop Arch, using it as a border. So now, if we want to use the Dollop Arch as it's described to be, which is the frame punch. So I have a 12 by 12 piece of paper. So I'm just using the backing that comes out of our designer papers. So to make a frame, I need to get my paper, and I need to line up my edge of my paper where that silver line is in between the two blues. So that would be my first punch, is lining it up in the middle, making sure that everything's secured at the back of the punch, and then punching. You should have a little bit of a leeway at the end here. So I'm going on to my next punch, and then as I'm going along, I'm just lining it up, making sure that everything is kept in place and matching. The back of your sheet of paper is at the back of the punch, and punching. So then when I go onto this punch, which would be my last punch on this side of the piece of paper, you have the little bit left over on my left because I'm left-handed. So depending on the way you feed it, that's perfectly fine. Just punch. And then you'll have something like this. So now I'm going to turn that, and exactly the same thing, I'm going to be lining it up on the edge there and punching. This little bit, it's like a little square that comes apart, and then that makes our corner. So now I'm just going to continue to punch along. Just lining it all up. doing exactly the same thing as we did on our first side. So lining it all up, making sure that our paper is secured to the back of the punch. So again, you've got that little bit of leftover on the edge there. Then you do your punch. And then just move all that confetti out of the way. So now I'm going to turn my paper again, lining it up on the edge, making sure that everything's pushed back, and do my first punch. So you take away that little cue, and then you do your next punch is lining it all up again and punching away. So we'll do that to the end of the piece of paper again, exactly the same as what we did before. So the last punch on this side, and then we're going to turn the paper again. So then you should have 2 points at the end. So we'll feed it exactly the same way, lining it up. This piece should come apart. Then you're back on your base of your punch and you're lining all those blue bits up with your white punch. Make sure that everything's pushed to the back, and then continue on until you get to the end. So when you punch something like this with using the frame punch, you can actually use this bit of paper that we're making as a frame from a 12 by 12 piece of paper. You can actually use it as a base of your layout. So just move all that confetti out of the way. So I'll just show you on the back of the cardstock again. So as you can see, with me putting this on a black cardstock and having a white background, that makes a nice backing that you can use, and then you can just place your photos on that. So you can have a couple of 4x6, 4x4s, and then you still got your journaling and then embellish. So that's using a 12 by 12 piece of designer paper and cutting out the frame with the Dollop Arch. So now I want to show you a design that I did with the Dollop Arch, using the frame and making frames for my photos to sit on. Bringing in my 12-inch trimmer. So I want to make a frame that will sit a 4x6 photo in. So to do that, you need to have equal sides, so that 6x6, 8x8, 10x10, 12x12, 4x4. So to fit a 6x6, so it's a 6x4 photo, so we want to add 2. So we want to make it 8 by 6. So we've got a 6x8 piece of paper. So I'm going to feed that into the punch exactly the same way as I showed you using the 12 by 12 to make in a frame. So we're going to line it up on that edge, doing our first punch, and then feeding it through and lining it up. So continue to feed it through. So now we're going to turn it exactly the same as what we did before. And then turning it again, lining it up on that mark so you get your corner edge. And then last punch on this side. Then again you have your 2 points, so we're going to line this point back up on the edge to where you start to make your frame. That one comes out, and then it's just one more punch. That end comes off, just moving all that out of the way. So bringing back in my cardstock, you can see from that 6x8 piece of paper or designer paper cardstock, whatever you might be using, then it cuts down to fit a 4x6 photo. So I'll just find a photo just so you can see that. So now if I place that photo on this frame, you can see that it will fit. So the only thing that I would do to make it fit properly on this frame would be probably just to trim off 1/4 of an inch from the top and to the side. So now I want to show you using the same technique and using a 6x6 to make a frame, and using a 6x6 designer paper cardstock that will trim down to a 4x4, and it will fit, sorry, and that will trim down to fit a 4x4 photo. So exactly the same sort of thing that we just did before. We're just lining it up on the edge and making a frame. So just spinning it, it's just a couple of punches on each side. And then turning it one more time. Lining that last bit in. And as you can see, that makes a 4x4, and that will fit a 4x4 photo. In the middle, you might want to again cut 1/4 of an inch off each side, so it's 3 3/4 by 3 3/4 square to fit a photo in, and then trimming a 6x8 down to fit a 4x6 photo, I should say. So if I trim off, just to show you, I'm going to do trimming down to 3 1/4 by 3 1/4. So this could be my photo. And as you can see, trimming that photo down to a 3 1/4 to a 3 1/4, it fits in that nice little frame. And that's the same with the 6x4 frame. You can trim your photo down to 5 3/4 to 3 3/4 to fit it nicely, unless you like the fit of your 6x4 photo perfectly on that frame. Trim it down, doing the same sort of thing for a 4x4. So if I wanted to do a 4x4, all I do is getting my punch, feeding the 4x4 in, and then it's just going to sit either side of those blue lines. And then all I'm going to do then is do my first punch, and I'm going to do exactly the same sort of thing, just feeding it into the punch, equal on each side, and punching. Once again, even on each side, and punch. And then your last punch, making sure that it's even on each side, and punch. And then that will bring down to a smaller frame again, using a 4x4, and you could use this as a little journal box. After punching those frames, a 6x8 and a 6x6, using the Dollop Arch Frame Punch. I've created this layout, and this is using the Golden Harvest designer paper and the Golden Harvest embellishments that I've used on the side here. And I have the frame to fit a 4x6 photo, which I have trimmed down, and then another photo down here using the 4x4 frame that I showed you how to make previously, and using a photo on that. So as you can see by my layout, that I've got nothing else on my page but using the Dollop Arch Frame Punch, making these frames to fit my photos on this layout, and then I've got this embellishment cluster down the bottom. And you can see by the colors and everything, making this layout really blends together and works so well. And the other layout that I did is using our back to school papers, designer papers and embellishments, and I've also used our red ABC letter stickers up the top. So I've used the stickers and embellishments on this layout, and as you can see, I've used the 4x4. Just get my 4x4 out. I've used the 4x4 frame that we made from that 6x6 piece of paper, and then I've actually placed the 4x4 size photos on the frame. So as you can see, with using the 4x4 photo sitting on that frame that we made to fit a 4x4 photo, fits perfectly. So I've done 2 of those, and then I've done the edging on my designer paper, and then having that blue attached to the background. So there are 2 ways that you can use your Dollop Arch Punch, making frames for your layout to fit your photos. Have a go today, see how you go, and using the frame punch or using one of our other frame punches will work exactly the same. So it doesn't have to be the Dollop Arch, it could be one of the other ones that Creative Memories have released, and it also give you the same dimensions as long as you use the equal side. So any comments and questions, let me know, and happy scrapping.